So I've been asked to record this, and hopefully it'll all record okay. And I'm sorry they can't make the screen much bigger, but the cable's not any longer, so can't move the projector further away. So good evening. So for those who don't know, I'm John Speed. I am the Managing Director of Heliocentrics, and we've been doing the IT for you for a few years now. Well, I think actually how many years it's been, but 4 or 5? Something like that. Before, probably after COVID, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so yes, and I've been working in IT now for the best part of 20 years, and I've done a few of these talks to a couple of councils, and it's always varied, as I was just saying. Sometimes I get loads of questions and we wonder if we're going to get through it all in an hour. Other times everyone sits in silence and we're done in 30 minutes. So please do throw out questions. The whole point of doing this is to try and handle any misconceptions, any ideas people might have. And it's much easier to share it. So just don't wait for the end or me to ask for questions. Just throw them out as we go. So what I want to talk through is the current threat landscape and how that's changing. Real world, or some examples that I've find of other things that have happened to other councils' situations. Have to touch on AI, I'm afraid, because that is affecting the landscape. And then what you can actually do to try and make things slightly better for yourselves. So the current threat landscape is changing, but traditionally, the things you have to deal with, phishing. A lot of people have heard of phishing. Yeah. What about spear phishing? Whale phishing? CEO fraud, smishing, vishing, and spoofing. All the terms they come up with. Okay, so phishing, as we all know, is somebody, they basically cast a wide net. They'll send out 10,000 emails telling you that you've won the lottery and you need to send them £100,000 to claim your prize in wherever. The whole point of that is you're casting a wide net. They're relatively easy to pick up on, not impossible. Spear phishing is where they're targeting people, an organisation, a type of organisation. Whaling, where they're targeting specific people, chairmen, clerks, RFOs, whoever it is, they are targeting specific people. And then they get much harder to detect. CEO fraud, you don't have a CEO as such, but that's where somebody is trying to target being the CEO. So quite often we see it. An email might come through saying, I'm on holiday, I've been locked out of my email account, can you give me access? Or the one that still amazes me that people fall for is, I'm emailing from my personal account because I don't want anyone to see this, but I want to give out vouchers to everybody at an event. Can you please go to John Lewis and buy me £500 worth of vouchers and send me the codes? You shake your head, number of people who fall for it. I don't understand it, but anyway, they do. CEO fraud, smishing. This is where you get text messages, SMS, where it comes from. Vishing, any guesses? Voice calls.
Not video.
Not video, though that is coming a bit more. And spoofing is where they can pretend to be you. So they, for example, could set up a domain name very similar to yours, changing one letter or something and try and get around it. Vishing itself, we'll talk a bit about deep folks and voice cloning, but I'm going to bring up there. You can now start cloning people's voices with just a couple minutes of audio. And in the last 2 weeks, we have had 2 calls to our office, which we think were people trying to clone the voices of some of the team. Because the calls, we listen back to them, they're very strange calls because someone's calling up and basically saying, I want to leave a message for Rob. That's like, okay. And then they read off some weird sentences and say, and can you repeat that back to me now, please? And they're sort of sitting there thinking this seems a bit odd, but people play along. We've now told our team not to. So do listen out for those because it's very easy now to clone. And I thought, I was telling the team, it's fine. They need like 5-10 minutes worth of audio. No, they can start cloning with about a minute's worth of audio, potentially. It will be very crude and limited, but it is getting better all the time.
Of course, the bank's using audio to verify your bank account now as well, isn't it?
Yep, so that's going to be out. They'll have to change that quite quickly. I imagine they've got technology to pick up the differences. But yeah, so voice is going to become more of an issue. We are probably going to be contacting all of our clients to tighten up on password resets and things, because in the past, if we know you, we can reset them. If we don't, we've passed them on, but we're not going to be able to trust that we're going to know you. There was a large company, Singapore last year, they were conned out of about $10 million. A request had come through from the CFO saying, please can you transfer $10 million to this account? They did exactly the right thing, thought, okay, we need to verify this. They jumped on a Zoom call with the CFO, talked it through, and it was a deep fake. It wasn't the person at all. And it completely fooled them, and they gave away 10 million. Now, that last year was really expensive to do, and every month it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. How someone might use that against you, I don't know, but it's still worth bearing in mind. If a call sounds a bit suspicious or whatever, try and see the person, them in person. Passwords. Usually they're the target of phishing attacks, but it's one of the big areas that people underlook. They think that technology is going to save them all the time, but actually a lot of people still use the same password on every single website they use. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands. I can already see some squinting faces. The problem with that is that every single person, every single one of those companies you give your password to has your email address and your password, and you don't know what they're doing with it. Sort of about that in a minute. Ransomware is one thing that's caught a lot of councils out. There's been some very high-profiled ones. I think £500,000 one council was held to ransom for to get their data from systems back. And that's basically where you might pick up a piece of software that then encrypts everything on your device so you can't access it. And then they say, if you want it back, you need to pay us money. Ransomware is an entire business. If you know where to go on the internet, there are companies that will make the software, and they just have the agreement they'll split whatever revenue you make 50-50, and they'll provide the software for it. Viruses, adware, spyware, Trojans, that's the thing most people think of when they think about security. They are problems, but it's slightly less common now. It's more to do with the phishing is the biggest one. Social engineering links a bit to phishing. That's where somebody is going to be using multiple techniques to target you as individuals, trying to build your confidence over time. Vulnerabilities and zero-day attacks. These, it sounds very technical, but basically it's your software updates. If you don't install updates, your devices are getting more insecure every week. So what happens with all software, not just Windows and Mac and phones, but also your Microsoft Office, your scanning app, your printer, all of those things. People are actively looking to try and find ways of using that software to get into your devices, get into your systems. And by doing so, they will then have full access to your system as their goal. What they do with these, there is researchers out there who are constantly looking to try and find ways into software. They will then get paid by like Microsoft to disclose it. And then Microsoft has usually about 180 days to fix it and produce an update that you can do it before the person can go public if they actually want the money from Microsoft or whoever is paying for it. So Microsoft and Apple and all the others, they're releasing updates at least on a monthly basis, if not more. But when they release them, people want to know why they're installing an update. So when they release it, they're also telling the entire world what problem they've got with the software. So if you don't install the update, you're then at risk because everybody's just been told there's a vulnerability with this. They might be told how to use it, but they know it's there, so they can go looking for it. And so that's where things get a lot riskier if you don't install those updates quickly. QR codes is an interesting one. During COVID, everybody got more familiar with snapping a QR code. It's been something that has started happening in a few places where people will come along and put up a fake QR code or stick a fake one over the top. Yeah. Restaurants, charity donations has been one as well at events. How do people know if it's just different, someone put a fake one up there? So it's a hard one to know on that one because people don't know what it was supposed to be going to in the first place. So you can look at the link before you click on it. And deepfakes, voice clone we spoke about. Why security matters? I had one council I spoke to, and people were like, well, all of our information is available on the Freedom of Information Act anyway, so what difference does it make if somebody steals it? True, to a point, but it's not the only risk that you've got. One of the biggest problems I think councils are going to have to be careful of is disinformation or people changing records without you realising. So to give you an example, I was talking to someone before who worked with a company whose job was disproving rumours and facts, and these were all ex-security force people. But somebody had hacked into their system without their knowledge, or their website, I think it was, and over the period of several months, they were changing minutes of meetings. Not anything drastic, nobody noticed when they went through, but they started building a pattern of, and that one was racial discrimination, was what they're pushing for. And then they dropped a big one that the media picked up on, and the company got hammered for it because they're saying, well, look, there's a history of you, it's been leading to this over a long time. And then they were like, well, no, we didn't say all that, but you've approved it, your signature's on it, it's on your website. They hadn't noticed, and it had been just built up bit by bit. That one, they think was a Russia or nation state attack deliberately. But it wouldn't surprise me that somebody won't target even smaller councils. I mean, how much news did it make with arguments over Zoom in some councils? And that made, in international news, they get a couple of councils to start actually showing something, racial discrimination or something like that. That can cause a lot of unease, and it would take far too long for the truth to come out and will cause problems. So I think that's one of your bigger area of risks. And there's not an easy solution to it, but it's everybody working together. You as individuals can be targeted. There have been many politicians who've had their social media accounts taken over. And people putting up stuff on there. If it's too outrageous, it gets blocked and deleted. But if it's just bad enough, nothing you can do. And if you lose access to Facebook or any of the social media accounts, the companies don't care. I only know of one client of mine who's ever managed to get back into their Facebook account, and they spend £25,000 a month on Facebook advertising, and Facebook got them back in with about a day. I've had no one else who's ever managed to get back into their account. I've got at least one person in our office, I think it's now down, but about 2 years of their old Instagram account, and it was sending out messages constantly, and they could not get Instagram to take the account down. Luckily, they had so few followers that everybody knew it wasn't them, but for councils and that, it can be more a problem.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
You're talking about changing minutes or things on a website. Is it not possible to create some sort of lock on, if you have minutes, some security over that particular document?
Yeah. So you can create encryption on documents when you upload them so that they can't be edited. If someone's really determined, I'm not sure how they get away, how well they would do. But I've always found with security, if there's the old joke, isn't it? How to survive a bear attack, be faster than the person next to you. I still think that actually, in a lot of security senses, if yours is hard to get into, they'll just move down the road to somebody else. I'm not saying that's a perfect solution, but it is someone else's problem and not your problem then. So yeah, there are ways like minutes. You can get certificates, so they have to have been encrypted from your device and uploaded. If someone was really determined, they could print them off, re-encrypt them, you may not notice, but at least you'd have evidence at that point to show that's not the version we've got, and here's the proof. Yeah.
Okay, the example you gave was discrimination, and it could have been a nation state interference.
Mm-hmm.
Is it conceivable that somebody locally could take against the parish council and do it on a much smaller scale?
Absolutely. And it's going to be much easier for them. With the way technology is moving, AI can make it a lot easier to actually do that.
Didn't Kenny Baden not hack into Harriet Harman's website years ago?
I don't know, I lose track with, but there's a lot of them.
No, I think that he did the
But you see now you can, I mean, anyone sitting at home can just sit there and learn how to start doing these things, or use AI to make attacks and target the council. And that's where you get into that bit of social engineering, because as well they could popping in and actually doing things in person. I was doing some work with NatWest Bank a few years ago, and they were saying they get a lot of problems with check fraud, even only a couple of years ago. And what happened is, looking back on CCTV, they found that these people would come in day after day, they'd sit down and just watch what was happening. And then they would learn the names of the tellers and everything else. And then right when it's really busy, they'd go up to them and going, "Oh, nice to see you again, Fred, and I hope the kids and everything are well." Start talking like they knew them. And then go, "Oh, can you just cash this for me because I need to go quickly?" And people would just think, "Oh, it's that British thing of you're not going to ask their name. You think, oh, that's surely that, like they know me, so I must know them," and don't question it. But yeah, you can be attacked by local people, to answer your question. I'm not going into much detail of what some lessons that ones that have, but there, Gateshead had a ransomware incident. Oxford Council had an issue with some stuff being stolen. This is a quick search I did earlier. I think these were all last year. Glasgow had an issue with one of their suppliers that meant it lost data from the council. And London, the Tri-Borough area, can't remember which councils, between them, they all got affected, and some data got stolen. The losses can be money, financial. I think it was Gateshead I want to say it was £500,000 of ransom they ended up paying, or I don't know if they did pay, but that was ever extorted for. So they can steal your money, or they could end up having to pay it. Losses in confidence, people lose faith if something happens, and loss of services. There has been some where obviously certain services have just not been able to operate because of these attacks. Email threats are definitely going to be your most common one. That's the easiest way for people to get into you. And it's the easiest way for you to fall for an attack, because they'll send an email through, "This needs to be urgent. This is before tonight's meeting. This is," whatever it is. There'll be a way of trying to get you to do it where you'll put your guard down and think, well, I need to do this. I had one today, I'm not sure if it's fake or not, but it's somebody suggesting that someone's trying to put a trademark on heliocentrics. And they shouldn't be able to, because it's a registered company. But anyway, that one I'm thinking, is it or isn't it? But that's the ones they want to aim for, because it's time sensitive. Outdated devices, spoken about. Legacy systems and software, old computers. People have got Windows 10 computers still. People have got older Macs. People have got older phones. None of them are supported. None of them are updated. They're all weak and vulnerable and could be putting your data at risk, and you'll never know about it. And weak passwords. So I think, here we go, it's a lovely chart.
Is there any way we can get around, because I've just bought myself a new Mac, because my old one was refusing to accept any updates without me paying hundreds of quid. Is there any way we can get around that?
The reason they do it is they can't, when they produce an operating system, they can't support every possible hardware that ever was made. Yeah. So like Windows 10 was just stopped recently. And it's because a lot of that older hardware, so they did free upgrade for anyone whose hardware supported it, but the older hardware doesn't have the security features that we now need in new software. Same with Mac, they've changed the processors and things. I mean, the Macs are very good in that they last longer than a lot of other devices. They keep their value a lot better. But even Windows 1, a lot of this now, 7 or 8 years is probably your sort of limit on a lot of these things.
I also recently bought a new laptop. The old one obviously still has all the same information on it, although it's not charged. Is that vulnerable?
If it's not switched on, it's not vulnerable, it's there. But when you dispose of it, you need to make sure everything's deleted. Yeah. Otherwise, someone gets hold of the hard drive, they might be able to get into it.
When you delete things, though, they can still be accessed.
Depends. If your computer's encrypted, it's less likely. And the modern hard disks is harder to recover from them. But most of them now should be encrypted. And I recommend, even if just on your home machines, making sure they're encrypted. And there is ways of doing that. You just have to make sure you've turned it on and things in place. But yeah, I've got a list of things to sort of look through on that. So passwords. Hive Systems is a company that does this research every year. and they look at how quickly a computer can crack a password. Now, everyone always knows you should have an 8-character password, tends to be the common one. Well, if we look at an 8-character password, a computer should be able to crack it with a lowercase password in about 3 weeks. And that's it's an okay computer. It doesn't have to be too fancy. It's something you could buy. Someone down the street could if they want to invest in it, could do it. They could try every possible combination of 8-character passwords and try and get into a system. Obviously, if you want to actually make it all of your characters, then an 8-character one is 164 years. This technology is improving all the time. But the point of this chart is it's not, so 164 years here for every possible letter, number, symbol. But if you just had lowercase letters, but it was longer, 18 characters, it actually takes the system 18 trillion years currently. So it's less likely to do it. Yes, that's a TN. And that's a bit of thing that people have been telling you for years. Go for an 8-character password with all the symbols and everything that you can never remember. You write a password that's a sentence, a phrase, something like that, and actually it's a lot more secure. And it's easier to remember, rather than trying to do it the other way around. So yeah, keep trying to look at passwords, make them slightly easier. 3 random words is the general suggestion. Do three words that might relate to that system. Obviously, don't put the company's name in there that it relates to, but what does it mean to you? Or what were you doing when you signed up to that site? Because that might remind you. So I had a password for a while that I had a service I signed up for just after I bought my new car. So it was like new car and then the make and the model or something was the thing. No one would have known it was that, but in my head, I can still today remember that was what the password was.
How safe are these systems that memorise your passwords? Google or various other people do it?
Varies. So Google in the browser, Edge in the browser are not very secure. They can be stolen if someone gets onto your machine fairly easily. Apple has a good one with built in the keychain. We recommend for most people there's things like called LastPass, Keeper, 1Password, those services. And I do recommend them for people because I can tell you all you need to have a different password in every single website. I know very well that's not going to happen because you're going to say I can't remember them all. So your options are either you write them down, which I've got no problems if people want to write their passwords down as long as they don't leave them on their desks. And you laugh. I'm not going to name the council, but I can tell you of a council that I know that I had reported to the clerk because one of their staff, standing in reception, looking at their screen, they had their password printed on a label stuck on the computer screen. And that was their password to access their emails remotely as well. So it does happen. So writing them down, you only have to protect it from the physical people who have access to it. So putting it somewhere safe, locked away can be great. But these online ones, as I mentioned, LastPass I wouldn't use anymore because they've had too many breaches. But the others, Keeper, 1Password, and there's a few others, that they are going to encourage you to have a different password on every site. So although there is a risk there that all your passwords are in one place, you're safer by the fact that you're not having the same password everywhere. So I had recently, one of our team was calling a high street clothing brand. Can't remember exactly which one, but a major nationwide one. And the person on the end of the phone was able to tell them what their password was, which means that they're not encrypting the passwords for every single person, which means any of their staff can look up the password for anyone's account with them. And that's the downside of having the same password everywhere. You have no idea who's looking at it. And they might be very respectable people, or it could be somebody in another country somewhere not getting paid very much money and wants a very quick win to take your details.
So when I'm on, I can't think quite what to find something, it then requires a password because you're setting up with a customer, and it then says suggest strong password.
Yep.
And I go yes. Is that dangerous?
No, it's just those when it's on there. If I would suggest, those strong passwords will be very random,
Yeah.
hard to remember. Write sentence, 3 words, something. Make it nice, long, but easy you can remember, or something, or write down, or.
So don't, because you can then click to, I mean, I'm obviously being very lazy, and I say, so you can click to say, remember for the
Yeah.
future.
That's
I
fine.
mean,
Yeah,
you
you
do,
can,
but then,
it's all a managed risk.
yeah,
So that's better than having the same password everywhere. You still have some risks. Going for a third-party system where it's a bit more secure takes away more of that risk. There's all sorts of little bits you can do, but the main thing is just trying to get those passwords changed.
right.
However you manage to go about doing it, just make sure they're not the same everywhere. Because if someone gets into one thing, they get into everything.
Yeah.
And realistically, you're never going to go back through and change all your passwords because there's so many accounts you've forgotten about that are out there in the world. I mean, LinkedIn. So I was doing this training a few years ago, and on the Monday of I did for a whole company over the course of a week, and on the Monday, it was announced a government thing. They'd shut down that someone in Russia had released the passwords for a group of MPs based off of the passwords that were stolen from LinkedIn 2 years previous. Maybe longer, maybe 3 years. Because it took the actual attack that stole, I think it was 154 million of passwords, took LinkedIn 2 years to realize they'd been stolen. They did tell everybody once they found out. That's them with all their resources. It still took them 2 years to realize. And LinkedIn, I remember it, did email every single person and said, you need to change your password. How many people do you reckon actually changed the password for LinkedIn? If they did that, did they change everywhere else? So actually, yeah, I think it was on the Monday, there was an announcement, this password list was in the wild. By the Wednesday, they'd shut down the email accounts for all MPs until they'd reset the passwords for every single one, just to make sure it had happened. But that's where they've got people looking for these things all the time. So yeah, if you had LinkedIn back in 2016 and you've used the same password now, then change it. Yeah, every website you give your password to, you're trusting with the keys to your world. Would you trust random Joe blogs down the street with the keys to your house, the keys to your car, your bank account details? You wouldn't, so why give them the password?
Of course, there's seems to me a problem. If you go onto a website and you've forgotten your password, you put your email address in and reset password and
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about that is they do send you, but you have to know yeah. And that's the problem. Once you know the password, so say if you had your email password, same as your LinkedIn password, someone can get into your email, then they can reset everything. And I have seen people who've been locked out of virtually everything because that's happened. It's not easy once they're in, that's it. So your email password is one of your most important passwords. Bank has got a lot more protection, oddly. People worry about their bank password, and that is something to worry about, but your email is the key to everything else. There is this website, haveibeenpawned.com, P-W-N-E-D. I haven't put it up there today, but there's a website, and you put your email address in, and it will tell you if your account has been reported on any data breaches. It's a limited information because they're only the ones they've discovered. They're not going to have all the ones they haven't discovered. So assume you have been in a breach at some point. And yeah, they're easier to brute force, and they can take a long time for anybody to notice that they've actually been stolen. Where are we going? What you can do, separate passwords every site, write it down if necessary. Spoke about that. Longer passwords, MFA, we'll talk about in a second. And if you get any phishing emails on your council accounts, please click the button that says report message. It should be at the top, report. It's a collective effort. If you report the message and Microsoft get 2 or 3 reports from different people, they will then just start deleting that email from everybody's email accounts automatically. I have seen it sometime where I remember I was about to report it, and just as I did it, it just disappeared from my inbox and it was gone. I thought, oh, okay, they've realized. So do keep hitting report. If it's wrong and you've reported one that was actually real, it's not the end of the world. They do check these things automatically.
Where do you find one password?
One password, you can look them up online. If you just go on Google, one password keeper. Up there. There are apps there. You connect it to your browser, so it still puts it directly into the web page if you're on there. You can have it on your phone. You can share passwords with other family members, or if you wish to. And if you want any more help on that, just let us know, and we can always help give you some links to where to go.
You have to assume that that in itself is not corrupt.
Yes, that's why. I mean, Keeper we use, and I did a lot of research on them. 1Password is the other big one that's out there. Both of them, their security methods meant even if someone stole all the data from Keeper or 1Password servers, it would take many, many, many years before they'd break into them, because they don't keep the codes anywhere on their systems. They rely on you having the codes.
Can I ask a question? This may be irrelevant, but please bear with me. I understand that increasingly we are being told when we write a will to ensure that our passwords are available.
Yep.
So that bank accounts are not basically locked.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Oddly, I nearly put some of this in, and I decided not to for time. But it's a really good point. No, it's a really good point. It is. I mean, I had a call with somebody recently who was a family lawyer, and she, for one of her friends / clients, they hadn't ever had that discussion, and somebody died at the age of 40, and it meant they had all their accounts. They had set up all their MFA and everything else. They didn't have the PIN code for the phone. They didn't have access to their passwords. Their son's mobile phone contract was in the husband's name, but they couldn't get into the account to move it. It was a nightmare. So legally, if you access the account of a deceased person, you're actually breaking the law, apparently. There is no, because that belongs to them, so it's against the Computer Misuse Act, apparently. But I did say to this lawyer when I was telling them about how they could get into the accounts, I'm like, this is the first time I've ever had to give legal advice to a lawyer to break the law. But I don't think anyone really cares at that point. But yes, you need to record passwords. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and a few of the others have the option of what's called legacy contacts, varying names. But those are ones where you can put in, I trust this person to access my account in the event that I'm dead. And obviously you have to set that up in advance. But if you can get it, and there is various guides, I think we've got some on the website, but again, I can always send that out later. Apple and Google, if you've got an iPhone or you've got an Android phone, they're the two key ones. If you can get into those accounts, you tend to be able to get into other stuff after that. But yeah, it's really important to get that right in advance. But also, if you write your passwords down, at least somebody can do it. Or if you have something like 1Password, share it with somebody else as well.
If you adopt one of these third parties, you've still got others like Google have still got the passwords.
You can go through, you can change them, delete them, yeah, whichever you want.
The Google.
Yeah, you can in your Google browser, you can just go in, settings, passwords, and delete them.
One interesting thing I've got at the moment, because what we've done at home, we try to get like joint accounts, so there's something happens to one or the other, we can get in. Interestingly, we thought we'd done this with BT, and it only happened last week. And then my wife, she'd set the account up, but she said, "Oh, I want my husband to do it." I went in to go and change something, and the bill was actually in my name, with my name up top. Oh no, so.
BT is really bad for it. Yeah, I mean, I had one the other day, and I literally had the husband and wife together. And BT going, "No, it's not them that's the primary account." I'm like, "Well, it's one of them." Yeah, and that was mainly because it turned out in the end it's because the husband goes by his middle name, not his first name, and forgot he'd told BT. 2 hours later, got there eventually. But yes, so MFA, multi-factor authentication. Everyone sighs at it. Nobody likes it, but it's the only way of protecting your account. So multi-factor authentication, also known as two-step verification, dual-factor authentication, 2FA, MFA, various terms for it, all based same thing. The idea is you need to prove who you are by 2 out of 3 methods. So that could be something you know, your password, something you have, your mobile phone, or something you are, biometrics. Tend to be the key ones. There's various other alternatives. You've got, but most of the stuff tends to be linked to mobile apps. Text message, 2-factor authentication, is a load of rubbish if somebody might know your phone number. Unknown to a lot of people. If you know someone's mobile phone number, you can get software and get all their text messages as they come through. You can't get iMessage and WhatsApps, but just normal SMS text messages you can actually collect. And it's mostly because, and I heard an interview with the person who invented SMS, when they first came up with it, they never thought anyone was ever going to use it, what they're going to, because who would want, and was it limited to 100 characters or something to start off with? They never thought it was going to take off. It did. And he said by the time it had taken off, it was too late to get everybody in the world to agree to a new security standard. And then you had WhatsApp come out and the various other things, so they just never bothered. Which is why Microsoft and a few others now are really pushing you towards having the app on your phone, because not only is it more secure from the point of view it's not using SMS, but also they can give you information on your phone about like where the request came from. So it'll actually pop up with a little map and just say, oh, this has come from India. Was that you? No. I mean, it's not perfect on its geographic locations, but it's a lot better than just having a pop-up saying, do you want to accept the login? I would strongly suggest you get this on as many accounts as you can. As frustrating as it is worth having. Most of you probably got mobile phones. If people don't have mobile phones, you're trying to convince them, you can get physical keys like this that you can plug in and use that just to prove that you are who you say you are. So there is always options if people don't support it.
So that's the app. The company who have the app, they are the people who actually put in.
No, so what happens is it generates a code. So the Microsoft Authenticator, if you have that one and you've got your council emails on that one, in general, it'll pop up on your phone saying, do you want to allow access? Was that you that just tried to access your account? You say yes or no. There are different variations. Sometimes it'll give you a code that you put back into your screen. It can vary. What you'll find is a lot of these sites, when you sign up, will say you need the Microsoft Authenticator, you need the Google Authenticator, you don't need all of them, you just need one. Ignore the fact they say they all work in the same way. The Microsoft Authenticator, if you've got a Microsoft account, is more secure because it's got a double check in there that's less likely to get caught by a phishing attack. But in general, they're all the same. So Microsoft, open it up, there's a button at the bottom, scan a QR code, scan it on the website, and then you're added. You don't have to have lots of apps. But your email account is the most important one for that. As we said earlier, once someone's got access to your email, they can access everything else. So council emails should all be forced to have MFA in place already. But I would suggest any of your personal accounts, you make sure you can turn it on.
I must say I'm completely lost now.
Okay.
Can I ask a supplementary to that?
Mm.
So, when you take over a role on a committee, for example, treasurer, you might be on an impersonal email.
A role-based email, treasurer at, yep.
Yeah. How do you have MFA for that when you hand over to the person who's unfortunate enough to take over from?
Then if it's, so for example, if it's council one, it was, for example, we would just go in and hit reset MFA and then the new person can register as if they were a new person altogether. You can go in and add a second device. So if once you're on there, you can log in usually and add another device, get them logged in and then they can remove you. It can be a bit click around, and it does vary from system to system where they hide it away, but normally in the settings there'll be an MFA option. And we have got a page on our website that lists various different companies and where they have hidden it. I will just put that out there that they do keep moving these buttons, particularly Facebook is terrible for that. So it might be slightly out of date and I need to look through it, I realised today. But yeah, there is various guides. But where's your personal email with? What's your
Well, I've got a council one, I've got a Hotmail one.
Hotmail? So Microsoft, it'll be just in your. Usually, you'll have your initials up in the top right corner when you're on the web version of it. Go into there, an account, and then there'll be an option for security, and you can check for multi-factor authentication or two-step. The first one is the most complicated, and you get the hang of it. It's much easier to do it. But I said earlier, social media accounts is the really big one as well. Bank has got loads of protection, but these are the things that are going to cause you more damage if anyone gets into them. You might hear the term recovery codes. Some providers give you what's called a recovery code, which is they're expecting you to keep that safe in case you lose your phone or your multi-factor authentication. Most of the sites you're dealing with are probably not going to have a massive problem if you don't end up that. You just have to jump through a few hoops. There's some I deal with that they say if you lose that recovery code, you're done. There is no recovery. All your data will be deleted. So that we have to keep very carefully safe. But the idea is they want you to get those codes, print them off, put them in a safe somewhere, and forget about them unless you actually need them.
The multi-factor authentication is a problem when you change your phone.
A lot of them you can back. Yeah, there is. You can. A lot of them you can back them up to like your Apple account or whatever, so that when you get a new phone, it brings them back down onto your device. It's something that's getting better, and I appreciate it's not brilliant yet. It is frustrating. There's a good chance passwords will be gone within the next 5 to 10 years anyway, because they're just not going to be secure enough anyway. There's a lot more of what's passwordless authentication, where you don't have a password at all.
So you've got passwords that you're saying that would take a computer 1 billion years to crack.
The problem is that as in they're trying every possible combination. Doesn't necessarily mean that it takes 1 million years to do every possible password.
You might get it right first time.
I mean, and a lot of them.
It's like the Enigma machine.
Yeah.
In theory, it's impossible in practice.
What they tend to do, a lot of them, as I understand it, is so it's like the LinkedIn one. They stole 154 million accounts. They didn't have to break 154 million accounts. They just had to run their systems for like 2 or 3 weeks, find how many passwords they've got, then start selling those passwords on to other people. And then they can just give up and move on to the next unfortunate victim. So again, it's that bear attack thing of just try and be better than everybody, than the person next to you, and then hopefully you're going to work out okay. I'm going to skip through this bit quite quickly because I really appreciate we're running out of time and you all need to get on with another meeting. I have no idea why this decided to stop working. We'll restart it. Okay. First one was strong passwords and MFA. We've spoken about that many times. Email threats. Don't just check the sender and the subject. It's the most common thing people do. Hover over links to check where they're actually going. And I'll talk a bit about that towards the end. And if in doubt, don't email back and saying, is this real? You laugh. I've seen it. I can name at least one person who lost £150,000 by doing that. So yeah, try and actually pick up the phone and call them and actually say, with the number that you know, not the number that's on the email, and go, was that really you? Because it can happen. Use systems that for council work, use stuff that has been approved. It takes responsibility away from you slightly, particularly around AI. I'm not going to go into too much about that, but there is a lot of risks if you start dumping council stuff into AI that it could be passed on to other people. It is data breach. Be skeptical if something's too good to be true. It probably is. I was helping somebody out before and they were moaning about the internet and scams. And they're like, oh, it's so easy to get scammed. I'm like, well, have you been scammed before? They're like, 5 times this year. No, well, like 5 times that one person has been scammed. Thinking, well, I think there's more you than the system. But anyway. And use safe devices, which I'm going to talk about very quickly on. So skipping over. Personal devices. Obviously, we have personal devices. Some councils have gone as far as mandating having council-driven devices specifically, but that's quite expensive. So key things to look out for: make sure you are using a supported operating system. Anyone who's got Windows, October last year, Windows 10 stopped being supported. They are, for a short period, doing a system where they'll continue with just key updates. And if you manage to click through and choose the option before October, you probably have that in place. But if you've still got Windows 10, it should be on your scope to actually replace that device. Same with some older Macs, older phones. iPhones are really hard to hack, but it does happen. Android phones, really easy. There are thousands of apps on the App Store that are malicious. That if you happen to install them, they can be stealing your contact information, text messages, all sorts of things. Updates, we spoke about earlier. Make sure your updates are installed. Encryption, make sure your devices are encrypted if they can support it. Traditionally, only professional versions of Windows supported encryption. They have done a basic version of encryption for all laptops now. Apple have it, but sometimes you have to turn it on. It's called File Vault. And phones, iPhones by default have it turned on. A lot of Android phones, you need to go and turn it on. And I've got a website we've done very quickly, which actually has some of those areas of where you can check that. A screen lock, make sure you have a screen lock. Don't have your phone with a code that's 0000 or 12345. I know someone lost their phone in London a couple of years ago, didn't think to mention it to anybody. Less than about 6 weeks later, their bank account was not quite emptied, but a lot of money was taken out of it, and we think it was because someone used their phone. And when we asked them about their PIN, did they have a decent PIN code, they're like, oh, I kept meaning to change that and never got around to it. Good evening.
Training session until then, so if you got to sit down and wait.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
We've got a training session from now until 7:30, but if you want to sit and wait, that's fine.
Here.
Yeah.
Right.
Separate user accounts. If you've got multiple people using a laptop, try to have separate accounts for both people or more people, particularly if you've got children or grandchildren around. Lots of times I've seen people who have gone ahead and installed games, particularly bad, and people pick up viruses and stuff that then would have access potentially to the data that's on your account. Also had someone whose 3-year-old decided to start replying to all their emails. AI threats I'm going to go through incredibly quickly. So I mentioned earlier about AI generated threats are going to be AI phishing. People can make new phishing websites. They can make new phishing emails very quickly, very convincing, and it takes some very little effort. Deepfake audio and video, we've spoken about that. They can research people incredibly easily based on what's available online, AI. It is uncanny some of the information it can pull out from people, which means their attacks can be more targeted to you. Misinformation, we spoke about that and actually how that can be happening. If you think something is going wrong with your device, turn it off and then call us. If it's at the weekend, turn it off and don't turn it back on again until need to, because the whole time it's turned on, it could be making things worse. We're limited, luckily, by really poor internet in this area, which means if someone's stealing all your files, it's going to take them a while to get them all. But also, if you've got a ransomware attack and you start noticing your files and you can't open them, there's weird things appearing on your screen, turn it off and it'll stop it getting any worse. And then we can look into it and see what can happen. It's just as much safer. What we need to be doing if there is a breach is not just deleting everything. We need the evidence of what was taken, because you never know what that's going to be needed for legal proceedings potentially in the future. So yeah, don't necessarily try and delete stuff yourselves. We would try and help you out and make sure we recover as much as possible and keep evidence. If you're not sure, report it, tell us. It's much easier to get a report in advance. Please don't send every single one of your emails saying, is this spam, is this spam? But in general, if you're not sure, ask the question. Or actually, if you're not sure, chances are someone will email again if it's urgent, so just ignore it and delete it. Quick wins and key takeaways, and then we'll be done. Device updates, spoke about multi-factor authentication. Email usage, only use your council emails for, only use the council email address for council work. I've seen a few where people just forward all their emails to their personal account, and that can just cause more and more problems. So, and then be skeptical of any urgent requests, particularly. They will try and convince you to do something, and there'll be a time pressure. So another common one I see quite a lot is just before a bank holiday, 4 o'clock, they send out notices about your account's going to be locked out unless you do X, Y, and Z. Christmas Eve is a particularly bad time usually for that sort of thing, because people panic that if they don't do it right now, they won't get what they want. I've created a website this afternoon very quickly, checkme.heliocentrics.co.uk. I basically just gave the AI what we're talking about here. It's created a nice little website, and it'll guide you through a bit about passwords and a bit about your devices. It gives you a bit of a checklist. There's text guidance on where to go to do these things. I will try and put some pictures up over the next few days where actually showing you where to go to get to everything, but the text is there of where to look at. Okay, and I will send that email over to you so you can circulate it out to people. And there's also a couple of little games on there about passwords and detecting phishing links, which we haven't had time to look into. But there is little, if I see, so very simple website. It'll look better on your computers because there'll be bigger screens. But yes, even down to there's a little game, Link Roulette, which I was going to talk through. But it's basically going to give you 10 random websites and ask you to try and work out whether they are legitimate or not. That one's fine. Let's see if there's, but it looks at things like that one, which I was going to talk through, really common one. It's a number 1 stuck on the end to make it look like an L, so it's going to catch you out. And that's the sort of little things that people are doing that it's very easy to miss when you're looking at links.
I've also heard that HTTP is not secure, but HTTPS is.
Okay, so yeah, what this means, so HTTP, the way a lot of this stuff works, the bit before the double slashes is telling the computer how to communicate with that server. HTTP means that it's not going to encrypt from your computer to their server. So the secure bit is a bit misleading in that people see, oh, it's HTTPS, therefore it's safe to use. No. All it means is from your computer to their system, it's not going to be intercepted. It doesn't mean when it gets there, it's legitimate. And actually more and more websites now are almost being forced to have HTTPS. It's basically free. Google doesn't really rank you unless you do. But anyway, I'll just suggest it's worth going through that little game very quickly.
Is that the same if it's got an SSL certificate to the padlock?
Yeah.
Still direct to elsewhere.
Yeah, well, yeah. All the padlock's telling you is from your computer to that server is safe. Doesn't tell you that server's safe or where that's going to send you afterwards. So yeah, it's the secure word is a bit misleading. Okay. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question about emails?
Yes.
The council doesn't provide us with IT equipment, which is perfectly understandable. So I use my own laptop to retrieve emails from various accounts, including my parish council account. I have it set up so that those emails are downloaded to my machine. Whereas I understand because we're Microsoft based, we can access them through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the way I should be accessing?
You could do either. There is no specific guidance. There is risks associated with both. The web one is going to be the safer option because they're not going to exist on your device indefinitely. But I also recognise that means you're probably not going to look at it quite so often. and then you might miss particular council stuff, and that puts the risk the other way around, non-IT risk. So I appreciate it is harder. For a lot of people, I'd be tempted to say, and I do for some accounts I've got, I have them on my phone because that only shows the last few days on my phone, and it's pretty encrypted and secure. And I will just use the web version when I'm on my laptop, because then at least I get to see them in both places. Any other questions?
How long before we don't dare to open these things? Seems to me that we ought to be investing in A4 patch, yeah.
Royal Mail.
There are even the old traditional methods, paper and all the rest of it, there are still risks and things, and there are many data breaches over the years where people have stolen bits of paper. I had a client a few years ago who was absolutely adamant there is no way she's storing any of her files in the cloud, not secure. Everything has to be stored on a USB stick. And when I was talking to her on the phone, she was a dog trainer, and she started screaming at her dog. And I'm like, what's wrong? We're just eating the USB stick off the table. I had to try very hard not to laugh. I think I saved that to laugh off the phone. But yeah, there's risks with all of it. And it's just trying to be aware of them and trying to do what you can to protect against it, because nobody tells you these things.
If the internet goes down, obviously you can't get anything out of the cloud, but you can still use your PC then, can't you?
It depends on what you've got on, how you've set up with the cloud. So some of the stuff will sync down to your device if you've got it set up like that. Others won't be there if you can't get on the internet. But particularly around emails, if you can't get on the internet, you can't reply, and you're limited in what you can do anyway. I mean, it's had a power cut not a couple evenings ago for most of the evening. You suddenly realise everything you can't do. Okay.
If someone like Jaguar Land Rover can get clobbered as they were, what's to stop a business now getting clobbered?
The Jaguar Land Rover and those bigger companies, people have been targeting them specifically and putting a lot of effort into it, a lot of money into it. What you want to do is make sure you're at the point where if someone wants to break into you, they're really going to have to go to town and really spend some money and actually work hard to do it. You just want to avoid that being the easy target.
Don't have anything on there that they might want.
The problem is it's not just you. They might use you for reconnaissance, forget other people. Because if they can get every person you've ever emailed, then stop emailing them pretending to be you, then there might be someone further down the line that's at risk.
I regularly receive emails from the chair. Does anybody else?
Yes. Occasionally.
I have been known to write a few emails, but it's really worrying because I don't know that you're getting them.
So what emails coming from?
They're apparently coming from Cambridge.
I have checked that.
Yeah. Okay.
They're usually asking for money.
No, that's me personally.
Why is it not sent around everybody?
Could somebody grab one of those emails? Could they send that email as an don't forward it, but send one of those fake emails as an attachment to us, and we'll just have a look.
I've deleted them.
Yeah, most people are going to delete them. Next time you get one, because I want to trace and make sure that it's somebody faking the email address and not someone actually sending it through your account without you realizing.
Would it be in my centre?
Not necessarily. On the server end, I can check.
Yeah.
So if you know the dates and times that you got them, or I can just run off every email, and I can always send you a list of these are all the emails we think you've sent. Are there any that you look odd? But yeah, without a bit more information. So next time anyone gets them, can they let us know? So we can actually just double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was.
Thank you very much.